In a hyper-connected world where most people overshare their thoughts, broadcast their emotions, and desperately explain their motives to win approval, silence has become the ultimate high-value currency. Most people operate like open books with wide open pages, making themselves completely predictable to everyone around them. They react instantly to every provocation, reveal their anxieties the moment pressure mounts, and blurt out their intentions before taking action. While they view this as transparency, the social world interprets it as weakness. When you are entirely predictable, you are easily categorized, easily manipulated, and effortless to dismiss. The power of being hard to read is not about acting cold, distant, or antisocial. It is about cultivating profound emotional composure and strategic self-restraint. It is the ability to keep your internal emotional baseline completely steady, regardless of the chaos, hostility, or excitement swirling around you. When people cannot easily read your reactions, calculate your next move, or figure out what triggers your insecurity, an extraordinary psychological shift, the burden of anxiety flips entirely onto them. You become an enigma, a calm, unbothered presence that commands immediate fascination, aura, and respect. Dale Carnegie understood that the human mind naturally obsesses over what it cannot easily control or fully comprehend. In human psychology, certainty creates boredom, while ambiguity creates intrigue. When someone knows precisely what makes you tick, how you react under stress, or how to get a rise out of you, they hold hidden psychological leverage over you. But when you master the art of emotional poise, holding your cards close to your chest with a relaxed, composed expression, you retain absolute authority over the dynamic. And consider what happens in a social or professional setting when an unexpected variable drops into the room. A sharp critique, a sudden crisis, or an aggressive challenge. The average person's face immediately betray their internal panic. Their eyes widen, their jaw tightens, their breath becomes shallow, and they rush to defend themselves or over-explain their position. They surrender their power in a split second. The individual who is hard to read does the exact opposite. When hit with unexpected turbulence, their physical tempo actually slows down. They do not gasp, flinch, or rush to react. Their expression remains placid, their body stays relaxed, and they absorb the shock with a cool, contemplative silence. That quiet pause forces the rest of the room to hold its breath. In that stillness, everyone else begins second-guessing themselves. Why isn't this bothering them? What do they know that I don't? So, lens, by refusing to give away your automatic reaction, you force the world to react to you. You transition from a passive pinball bouncing off external circumstances to an immovable anchor that stabilizes the entire room. You create a psychological boundary that no one dares lightly cross because no one can accurately predict the consequences of pushing you too far. In the next section, we will break down the exact nonverbal mechanics and conversational habits that allow you to maintain this calm, captivating aura of mysterious authority without ever appearing cold or arrogant. Ambiguity creates intrigue. When you refuse to give away an automatic reaction, you force the world to react to you. To cultivate an aura of being strategically hard to read, you must master the art of controlled self-disclosure. Most people fall into the social trap of over-explaining. When asked a simple question about their plans, opinions, or past choices, they offer long, rambling justifications as if they are a trial before a court. of peers. They reveal their doubts, their financial state, their relationship drama, and their future strategies to absolute strangers just to fill awkward lulls in conversation. This constant stream of oversharing strips away your presence and lowers your perceived social status. Dale Carnegie emphasized that holding respect in human interactions requires managing the emotional temperature of the room. High status influence is built on selective communication, saying what is necessary, meaningful, and value driven while keeping your internal personal sanctuary private. When you speak with concise, intentional brevity, every word you drop carries 10 times more weight. You do not flood the market with your thoughts. You keep the supply low so the value remains exceptionally high. Mundane, consider the non-verbal art of the composed pause. When someone asks you a direct or probing question, the instinctual habit is to answer instantly, often filling the first second with filler, sounds like well, or I guess. To reverse this, implement the 2-second rule. When questioned, hold still. Look the person in the eye with a calm, neutral expression for 2 full seconds before uttering a single word. Then that brief, disciplined pause signals to the brain of everyone present that you are not intimidated by the question, nor are you desperate to satisfy their curiosity. You process information on your own timeline. When your answer finally comes, delivered in a clear, measured, down-toned voice, it lands with authority. You appear deliberate, highly dangerous in negotiation, and completely in control of your cognitive faculties. Amlena, another essential pillar of remaining strategically enigmatic, is mastering the warm poker face. Being hard to read does not mean walking around with a scowl, acting cold, or projecting a moody, distant demeanor that alienates potential allies. Coldness makes people uncomfortable. Composure makes them intrigued. A warm poker face combines a relaxed, polite micro-smile and agreeable eye contact with zero emotional reactivity to subtle provocation. Manja. Imagine someone makes a passive-aggressive jab at your work or lifestyle in a group setting. The average person either scowls defensively or laughs nervously to cover their hurt feelings. Both responses prove that the jab hit home. The master of the warm poker face simply tilts their head slightly, holds steady eye contact with a calm, amused smile, and lets the silence hang for a beat before smoothly transitioning to the next topic without addressing the insult at all. Ben deconstruct the psychological leverage of that moment. You didn't give them anger, which would validate their attempt to hurt you. You didn't give them nervous laughter, which would concede weakness. You gave them absolute, smiling neutrality. The instigator is left hanging in conversational dead space, looking petty and insecure, while the rest of the group marvels at your unshakable poise. You have demonstrated that your internal peace is far too expensive to be bought by cheap social provocations. When you pair selective self-disclosure with deliberate pauses and a warm poker face, you become an immovable psychological force. But keeping your composure in routine social exchanges is only the beginning. To truly leverage the social advantage when high stakes are on the line, you must learn how to use strategic unpredictability in negotiation, conflict, and leadership dynamics. A warm poker face combines polite composure with total emotional neutrality, leaving provocations completely powerless. The true test of being strategically hard to read arrives when high stakes, intense negotiation, or open conflict enter the room. In moments of tension, most people become open books of desperation or hostility. They reveal their hand early, whether it is an urgent need to close a deal, a deep fear of losing an argument, or a toxic desire to get the last word. The moment your adversary or counterpart maps your emotional buttons and panic points, your power in that room vanishes. Dale Carnegie consistently highlighted that the most effective negotiators and leaders are those who stay detached from the immediate emotional noise of a conflict. When you step into a high-stakes scenario, your greatest strategic advantage is unpredictability. If people cannot predict whether a harsh term will make you walk away or whether a sudden threat will make you flinch, they are forced to tread with immense caution. Your quiet composure makes them question their own leverage. Consider an intense negotiation dynamic. Suppose a client, boss, or competitor presents an unreasonable demand or a hardline ultimatum. Take this offer right now, or the deal is completely off the table. An insecure or reactive person instantly panics. They either fold completely out of fear, or they blow up in an angry, defensive outburst. Both reactions reveal an internal loss of control. The master of strategic ambiguity responds with absolute cold serenity. They do not argue, gasp, or plead. They sit back, lean into their chair, and maintain a calm, unblinking gaze. They allow 5 full seconds of complete silence to fill the space. Then, in a lowered, completely even voice, they say, "That is an interesting position for you to take. Let me think about that, and I'll let you know if that works for us." Men analyze the psychological devastation of that single response. As you did not accept the ultimatum, nor did you start a shouting match. You stripped away all their artificial urgency. By remaining composed and hard to read, you leave them agonizing over what your next move will be. Are you about to walk away forever? Are you preparing a devastating counter-move? Because they cannot read your poker face? Their own anxiety forces them to rethink their aggressive stance, often causing them to soften their demands before you even make a counteroffer. This principle extends directly to managing interpersonal conflicts. When someone expects you to fly off the handle, yell, or break down, giving them complete cold emotional stability completely breaks their psychological momentum. You refuse to play by the emotional script they wrote for you. By remaining unreadable under fire, you force them to confront their own emotional dysregulation while you stand as the adult in the room. Then furthermore, being hard to read means protecting your long-term vision. High-status strategists never broadcast their plans before they are executed. They do not boast on social media, reveal their career moves to gossiping colleagues, or brag about unfinished projects. They work in deliberate focused silence. When you keep your strategic moves private until the results are already sealed, your success arrives like a thunderclap, sudden, undeniable, and impossible to sabotage. When you master the art of unreadable composure under high-stakes pressure, you transition from a participant in social games to the person who unconsciously dictates the rules of the environment. In our next part, we will look at how to balance this unreadable authority with authentic human connection, ensuring that your aura attracts high-value allies rather than creating unnecessary walls. Unreadable composure under pressure strips away artificial urgency and forces the other side to question their own leverage. There is a fine, dangerous line between being strategically hard to read and becoming cold, isolated, and untrustworthy. If you misinterpret this social advantage as a license to put up rigid emotional walls, stonewall your friends, or act like an unfeeling robot, people will not respect you. They will simply avoid you. Human beings possess an ancient instinct for self-preservation, and if someone feels that you are completely shrouded in darkness with zero warmth, they will assume you are deceptive or hostile. To command true authority, your mystery must be balanced with absolute, authentic warmth. Dale Carnegie emphasized that the ultimate goal of human relations is to build genuine connection and trust. Being hard to read is not about building an impenetrable fortress to push the world away. It is about building a secure, private inner sanctuary while keeping your front door wide open with hospitality. The most magnetic figures in history were not cold cynics, friends and for. On force, they were individuals who made people feel profoundly seen and heard, while keeping their own personal sovereignty completely intact. The secret to mastering this balance is the principle of asymmetrical openness. You make others feel comfortable revealing their thoughts, feelings, and ambitions by giving them your complete, undivided attention, while remaining selective and deliberate about what you reveal of yourself. When you engage with someone, focus the conversation entirely on their world. Ask deep, insightful questions. Show genuine curiosity about their perspective. Validate their emotions with real empathy. Look at what happens to the psychological dynamic when you execute this properly. The other person feels deeply valued, understood, and relaxed in your presence. They walk away from the interaction thinking, "What an incredible, warm person." Yet, if they analyze the conversation later, they realize they learned very little about your private plans, your internal anxieties, or your strategic secrets. You created a rich, warm human connection without surrendering a single shred of your personal leverage. Another vital element of maintaining warm ambiguity is the mastery of quiet confidence over loud validation. An insecure person who tries to act mysterious will often make a point of telling everyone how quiet, dangerous, or private they are. They drop heavy hints about their secret projects or post cryptic quotes on social media. This is performative mystery, and it signals desperation for attention. True presence never asks to be noticed, it is simply felt. When you are truly comfortable with being hard to read, you feel zero need to advertise it. You don't brag about your achievements, nor do you feel compelled to correct every misperception people have about you. If someone underestimates you, you don't argue with them. You quietly smile, take mental notes, and let your eventual results shatter their expectations. You allow your actions and character to speak, while your words remain light, polite, and unburdened by ego. When you master asymmetrical openness and quiet confidence, you eliminate the threat of becoming isolated. Strangers and high-value allies alike will feel magnetically drawn to your warmth. While instinctively respecting your unspoken boundaries, they recognize that while you are generous with your kindness, you are a person of deep substance whose respect must be earned, not assumed. In our final section, we will synthesize these frameworks into a permanent, lifelong philosophy of self-command, ensuring you hold absolute sovereign power over your identity, your emotions, and your presence in any room. Asymmetrical openness lets you offer genuine warmth and connection without surrendering a single shred of personal leverage. Mastering the power of being hard to read is not a game of temporary tactical tricks. It is the ultimate expression of internal self-command. When your internal peace becomes non-negotiable, your reliance on external validation vanishes. You no longer react to every stimulus, explain away every misunderstanding, or surrender your peace of mind to the emotional turbulence of others. Your presence becomes an unshakable baseline of composure, a calm, steady center that commands automatic authority in every room you enter. Dale Carnegie's timeless work reminds us that human influence is ultimately born from self-mastery. The most formidable individuals in any room are never the loudest, the most combative, or the ones fighting frantically for attention. They are the individuals who possess absolute control over their own emotional spectrum. They give respect freely, listen deeply, move with quiet purpose, and guard their internal sanctuary with ironclad discipline. By refusing to let the world dictate your reactions, you claim total sovereignty over your life. Bend as you step out into a world filled with constant noise, hyperreactivity, and performative oversharing. Carry these principles as your invisible blueprint. Slow down your physical tempo when pressure mounts. Embrace the strength of deliberate silence over cheap words. Keep your plans private until your achievements render them undeniable. Offer authentic warmth to everyone you meet, but reserve the deep keys to your inner world for those who have earned your absolute trust. Chind. When you master the art of being strategically hard to read, you transform your presence from a passive open book into an irresistible, high-status enigma. You step into every environment not as someone begging to be understood, but as a grounded, composed leader whose quiet depth demands respect long before a word is spoken. True authority is never loud. It is the calm, unshakable composure of someone who governs their own internal world.